You're listening to a Countout Podcast.
So, Curtis, here on the Okada Shorts podcast, normally we're all about wearing shorts, but today we're about wearing something else. That's right, the tracksuit of a young lion. We're joined by the one and only Michael Richards from the Fale Dojo. How are you, my man?
I'm very good, thank you. A little bit tired because I don't usually wake up this early, but here we are, and I'm ready.
That is it. Broadcasting live from New Zealand. We appreciate your time, my man. That zip you guys heard was literally the zipping up of a tracksuit jacket. It was awesome. I've managed to collect a couple over the years. A quick anecdote to break the ice before we get started. The very first time we went to the Tonkin shop, we were in there and we were looking for merch. And we'd had quite a few strong zeros that day, and we're in there. And then we see down on the lower shelf, what is that? I spy it's the red and black of a Young Lions tracksuit, and we look at them, and they're $400 Australian. And we go, they're $400? And then we go, but we are drunk. And then 3 people walk out of that place in fucking matching tracksuits. Yeah. Head to toe, and that became like our travel uniform for all the trips. Like we just, wear those, and got to be honest, it's pretty convenient to know, like, that's the jacket I'm wearing, and I would just layer things. But also very funny interactions with the lovely people of Japan, because they quite often come up and ask me, player, like, are you a wrestler for New Japan? And I'm like, no, I'm a fan. And then they're like, wait here. And then they'll like bring me gifts. Like they'll like grab me posters from their walls from when like New Japan was touring through and stuff like that. It was real. One guy, we heard somebody yelling down the street, and a little man comes running down after us. He's like, New Japan. We're like, yeah. And he goes, here. And no joke, handed me like 6 posters. He owned a little shop or whatever. And he's like, oh, here you go. Fans. And like just on the street. It was amazing.
Yeah, fuck. Oh.
But that's what it is. Anyway, completely derailed the show. Let's have a roll call real quick. Curtis, why don't you tell everybody what this even is?
All right. Well, the boys from the Shorts are back. Hey, it's the International Wrestling Grand Prix, the Kings of Pod style, the King of Shorts, Okada Shorts podcast. This is your good friend, Curtis Spears. That right there, that's your bad friend, Rafe Houston.
What up?
You're supposed to say what up there. Fine. You always say there.
Yeah, I know, it's very early, Ken.
And yes, today from the New Zealand dojo, Mr. Michael Richards, star of the Lions Roar program, and star of New Japan Tamashii, and star of our hearts and souls. How you doing, buddy? All right?
Yeah, I'm doing very good, bro. Like I'm just hanging in there, training hard, and just waiting for the next opportunity that arises.
Absolutely. I think it was pretty evident from the documentary that you're one of the hardest working young lions going right now, and it was nothing but an impressive story. Why don't we just rewind all the way to the start, though? Let's just quick back to when you were first exposed to pro wrestling and how that then went on to inform this entire journey, really. So when did you first see pro wrestling and become a fan, I guess?
Well, I guess it would have first started, like, my father, he got a PS2 for his birthday. I think it was maybe 2001 or 2002, something like that. And one of the demos on the PS2 was, I think it was SmackDown, Know Your Role or Shut Your Mouth, one of those old games, right?
Great games.
And I played through the characters.
Classic games.
There was this guy with a mask, and I was like, what the fuck? Who's this guy? And it was Kane, and I was just taken away by it. And all these characters like Triple H, The Rock, and all that. But then a few years passed and I kind of stopped playing it. I kind of forgot about it. But then a friend of mine, he joined school, and for class one day we had to do some silent reading. I didn't have anything to read. So he starts handing me all these wrestling magazines, and you have like Batista, Torrie Wilson, the Boogeyman, and all that. And I was like, holy shit, this is wrestling.
Yeah.
And then he came over to my house one night at like 11 p.m. We just watched Raw. And I believe it was Edge and Matt Hardy. They were going through that real life feud.
Yes.
And ever then been like constant watching just all the time. And that's when I pretty much fell in love with it.
Yeah, that was when the bug hit. It's funny. I was also exposed to pro wrestling through a magazine first as well. So I was in school, and kids swap stuff. I had like this marker. It's called a Posca. It's like a big yellow paint marker. I guess graph kids would use it or something. I don't know how I had it. I think I traded it from another kid, but this one kid wanted it, probably to do graffiti. Now I think about it, because he was a little fuckhead. But anyway, he had a wrestling magazine, and he swapped with me. And it was the same, like all these larger than life characters, it's like the Hulkster on the front or whatever, and in the middle was like a big sort of like fold out, or at least I remember it being huge, but I'm sure it was only like just one page of the Ultimate Warrior, and I was like, what is this? And then it would be a little while later before I then went on to like rent VHSs and find it and stuff. But those WWF magazines were so cool, and they were a huge part of like my ongoing fandom, because we didn't have, and I'm sure it was the same for you in New Zealand, like it didn't have it on TV easily.
No.
And so like I used to buy the WWF magazine every month when it came out and sort of catch up on everything. And then when eventually the next pay-per-view would come out on VHS or then DVD, I would sort of already know what's happening, leading up to it, kind of thing. Was it the same for you? Did you stay on with the magazines, or did it more become about like watching it on the internet? So?
I was on the magazines for quite a bit, but then when my friend told me it was on at a certain time on like Friday nights, I made sure every Friday night to keep on watching.
Yeah.
So 2007 was when I started ordering the pay-per-views and watching weekly.
Yeah, that's it. And were you watching it on like, I guess, does New Zealand have Foxtel or so it's Sky or?
Had a thing called Sky One.
Okay. Yeah.
And like I think Sunday was SmackDown, and I think Wednesday was Raw because of like a delay or something like that.
Yeah. Okay then. That's pretty cool. That you could actually watch the regular shows. For us, I didn't end up being able to watch like Raw until, like my first year of university. Yeah, exactly. I moved to Perth, and I had a friend who had Foxtel, which is like Australian, cable or whatever, and they had irregularly. We would go around every week or whatever and rent pizzas and stuff and watch Raw, like when it was on. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure for Curtis over there, smirking in his ivory kingdom of living in and growing up in America, I'm sure it was around you the entire time, right?
I'm just thinking about how much I took that for granted. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I took it for granted, like how much wrestling there was. Like I remember, every Monday after school, I just sit there and count the hours until Raw and Nitro came on. And I remember that, like, I had a TV that had the buttons on the top, and I would sit there and I'd 24 was where Raw would come on. 27 was where Nitro would come on. And I just sit there and I wouldn't sit down for the entire 2 or 3 hours those shows were on. And I just sit in there and click back and forth between the two. Yeah. So that was, I never thought of it being so hard to find in other places. I was fucking 12. So what did I know? But like, yeah, that's wild to me, man.
We had to work for it a little bit. So when you started renting the pay-per-views, you're right into it. How old are you then, Michael? Like, are you getting into high school, and do you still stick with it, or do you start to fall out of it like people do and come back around?
I was in intermediate, so I was possibly like 11, 12.
Okay, yep.
11, 12 years old. That's when I started like watching on a consistent basis and following them.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then do you stick with it all through high school and after that? Because I was into it like all through high school and stuff, secretly, because nobody else knew what the fuck wrestling was in Australia. And also I didn't want to be bullied or teased, but 'cause I was a scared young man. But once I got to uni, I had a few friends who were watching it, but then it wasn't like I sort of got out of it. I ended up playing in bands and like doing things for years. No joke, I was out of wrestling for about 10 years though. I sort of kept apprised with it. It's soon, but when it dragged me back huge. Did you ever have a period where you were away for it, or was it kind of like this is something that's huge in my life?
So from like 2007 through to 2013, I watched it like all the time. But as I started training and my wrestling career started to pick up, I couldn't watch it all the time.
Yes.
But I still knew what was going on through like wrestling websites and all that jazz. But no, I've always been kept in the loop with wrestling.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I don't watch WWE or anything. I pretty much just watch New Japan. That's all I watch now.
Yeah. And so, how old were you then when you started to look at training? Like, were you playing sports and stuff in high school and you were like, oh, maybe I could do this? Or for you, was it like a laser focus, like, I am going to be a wrestler, I'm going to find a way to train, I'm going to do these things?
So I played soccer for like, I'd say 13 years. And in the beginning, I wanted to be a professional soccer player, but then I started to change my mind when people younger than me started to become better than me, and that kind of, I didn't really like that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a certain thing to be said about like natural talent with games like soccer, right? There's some people that just live and breathe it, and you're like, no matter how hard I work, this kid's just wicked at it, you know?
Yeah. But in 2011, that's when I wanted to try and become a wrestler. So I did a tryout at a local wrestling company. I could do like all the squats, all the conditioning, everything, but I was too small.
Yeah.
So they told me to come back when I was 18.
Yeah.
And when everything started.
Yeah, started to get going. Wow. So it really was that young that you sort of began your journey. And how long then is it before we start to look at something like New Japan and you meet Fale? Did you have a bit of an independent career before that happened?
Yeah, so I wrestled. My debut was on June 1st, 2014. So I met Fale in 2014, but 2016 is when he started to approach me about joining the dojo.
Yeah, wow.
But I wrestled all over New Zealand for like pretty much every company. Wrestled in Australia and America.
So it wasn't really a ground up scenario. I'm sure it became a ground up scenario once you enter the dojo and New Japan do things that way. But you were already a traveling wrestler, like a journeyman wrestler when you joined.
Yeah, I trained at the Ring of Honor dojo for like 3 months.
Oh wow!
Preparation for my WWE trial at the Performance Center. So I've done all that.
Yeah.
Because like originally New Japan was never my goal. I never wanted to get into New Japan.
Yeah.
WWE was always number one.
Uh-huh.
But when they told me we don't have anything for you now, go out and get more experience, that like I almost wanted to quit wrestling then, because like getting told no is the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
But then a month after that tryout, that's when I had the New Japan New Zealand tryout.
Yeah.
And that's when Jado and Gato told me to go train with Fale.
Wow. That's crazy, man. Wow. Like the perseverance in something like that, and especially I know that like being told no thing absolutely sucks. And for you at that point, you crossed the world to do this thing. You know what I mean? So close to your dream, and then to be like, cool, go home now. And you're like, oh, bro, like, but I mean, like, you seem like the kind of person that those setbacks and stories that you told in the documentary use as motivation. So let's delve a little bit deeper into the before times, and then we'll really get into New Japan. How do you even find like a wrestling school in New Zealand? You know, like when we're first like looking for things and stuff, is it just like search the internet, or were you going to regular shows, or like as a fan, or what were you doing?
So like the guy who gave me all those wrestling magazines, like he had a birthday when he was like 15, and the birthday was a wrestling show. And then like we were all
right
sitting
on.
in front row, and then like I had no idea there was wrestling in New Zealand. I always thought that it was wrestling on TV.
Yes.
But just being front row and seeing all the guys, I was like, wow, maybe I can actually do this.
Yeah.
Why can't me?
Yeah. And you know what? Local shows can be like an absolute motivator like that. That's why I got into being a band. Like, you know, bands are these huge things. I'd been to like big day out festivals. I'd been to things and they were like this huge rock star thing. And then a friend took me to a local show and there's just like some dudes on a stage playing their own original like metal. And I'm like, I can do this. This is too hard. You know, if I work hard and I learn an instrument and just I can do it. And like it would have felt the same for you. You're in front row. You can see it. There's a ring right here. These guys, you know, aren't exactly Batista, you know, and you're like, so maybe somebody like myself who is kind of an athletic dude could potentially do that and made it seem more obtainable, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. So once you do you then train with that company, like the one that you guys went to the show? Are they the people you approach?
Yeah. So that's the company. So Impact Pro Wrestling New Zealand. That's the company. I did a tryout in 2011. They told me no and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But then I still wanted it even more.
Yeah.
So then I approached another company called Maniacs United. And they're a right company, but like the first training I knew I wasn't ready for it.
Yeah. Okay.
So then I decided to keep on lifting weights, trying to get bigger. Funny enough, Flow Rider and Sheamus was my inspiration to get bigger. Strange, I don't know, strange combo.
Okay. Flow Rider's sick. I've seen him in real life. Those abs are crazy.
He was a singer, but like he was bigger than all the
Yeah.
But yeah, Impact was the first company that I started training with.
Yeah. That's so interesting that Maniacs United was one that you touched on, because I in my kind of interview series that I do over on Faces and Feels, I've done interviews with Vic Craig, who had a lot to do with Maniacs United, and JT Hollow, who's a young up-and-comer from New Zealand. I was just editing his podcast like a day ago, we recorded an interview a while ago, and he essentially did the same thing. He walked into Maniacs United. They didn't have tryouts. They were just like jump in and start, and he felt comfortable that way because he's like a bigger Maori boy and was like, oh, I'm a bit, concerned I won't be able to do all the squats and the jumps and stuff. And he's turned into somewhat of a young wrestling prodigy. A lot of people would say about him, like they think really highly of him. So it's crazy that there's that intersection there where Maniacs was something that you were briefly flirting with the idea of,
Yeah, no, I like JT. Like I met him briefly at a show in 2020, and he was like the only one who was like ecstatic and happy to be there. And like when he shook my hand, he like brought up like a flower. Just a nice guy, nice guy.
He's a lovely guy. He's really grateful to be a wrestler. When you hear his story, he almost could never do it because he had like eye issues when he was younger. He had to have an operation and stuff. So he was told he could never do anything physical. And then he realized that he wasn't going to break, and he's like, I'm just going to go for it. So his mindset is really, really, really impressive. Yeah. But anyway, check out JT Hollow. He's awesome. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're talking about Michael Richards. Yeah, so you took that as an opportunity to go, okay, I want to go to this place. They said I'm too young or whatever. I'm now going to physically work on myself to be ready for when it is time to train. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so when you eventually debut for the first time, you've been trained there, it's now time to wrestle for the first time. Are you Michael Richards then, or do we have a sick gimmick name?
I was Mike Ice.
Mike Ice, there we go.
I was
Mike Ice.
Because I wasn't planning on debuting that day.
Okay.
But my trainer, he was like, why don't you use Mike? And then I don't know what I wanted to be called back then. So they're like, all right, Mike Ice, go out there.
Yeah.
sweet. And I was in a fatal four-way.
I was just gonna be Ice, and then it was Mike Ice.
Yeah, it's on YouTube, by the way. It's Mike Ice fatal four-way, IPW.
Okay. We're looking at that.
Fuck, I wasn't ready.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We're fronting the link for that and putting it in the notes so you can go watch.
He's like, please
I'll
don't.
send you the link afterwards.
Sick. That'd be awesome. But yeah, you feel like you definitely weren't ready, like at that point.
Nah, I was fucking nervous, but it was a fatal four-way,
Yeah.
and it was elimination. So I was just paired up with this guy called Liam Fury, and he just controlled the whole match.
Yeah.
But
You survived it though. So then, do you then go on? Like, is your independent career? Does Mike Ice stick, or is that just that one only show?
now, these shows were like these pop culture expos.
Okay.
So it was like, like heaps of different conventions, like comic book conventions, and there's come in and watch. But my first like live show debut match was against Aaron Henry.
Oh yes.
For Impact
really?
Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Hanare was also at Impact.
Yep. So Aaron, myself, Dakota Kai, all came from
Wow.
and we all came from high school as well. So
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So did you were they in like the same year? Like, did you know them well, or you sort of knew them from around and got to know them better through training?
So high school I didn't. Dakota finished, I think, years up before me.
Yeah.
Aaron was like year 13 when I was year 9. But yeah, I've known Aaron for like 10 years now.
Yeah.
But
wow.
we got to know each other even more through wrestling training.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So you guys were obviously in that class. You've wrestled with him a whole bunch of times then, I imagine.
Yeah, we didn't really do much training matches. I've only possibly been in the ring with him maybe like 5 times.
Okay.
Maybe.
Only wrestling him a few times, but knowing him quite well. How is it now seeing, his success as he's, gone on and his trials and tribulations as a young lion, yet now, finally getting to the point where, he's part of this huge stable, well, arguably probably kind of the most popular stable going at the moment. It must be pretty cool to see that all play out.
Yeah, it's really inspiring to see people you've crossed paths with make it big. And I feel that Aaron's doing like great at the moment. And it's going to be really great when I have another singles match with him, because my last singles was in 2015. So it'll be good to see how much I've improved since back then.
Yeah.
But nah, all the best to Aaron, and I wish him the best for the future.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Are you currently watching him in the World Tag League, like for them?
Nah, I'm loving the World Tag League at the moment.
It's been so good.
At 10 p.m. this time, so yeah, I have to stay up like till like 1 a.m. to watch the thing. But no, I love it. I'm loving it.
It's been so good this year. Like having the combination of the 2 different tag leagues at the same time is really fun.
Yeah.
It's like you get this nice juxtaposition between the 2 shows, and it doesn't get too samey. It's really enjoyable.
And there's a lot of new talent that's really freshened up both of those divisions. It feels new to see both of them, and there's no slog. Like sometimes World Tag League can be a slog. It's right at the end of the year. We're all ready for Wrestle Kingdom and stuff like that, and we just want to get through this and get to January. But man, this year's been really cool.
Not just the tag league, but also the young lions. Like I love watching them, like Yuto Nakashima and the new one Oscar, because I helped.
Oh, really?
And now I was the first person to teach Yuto how to wrestle.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
It must then be really cool to see that like play out. As a teacher, I'm now watching these guys on this platform, like doing this thing and, critiquing them and watching it happen. That must be so rewarding.
Yeah, like because I think in June he came over to the Fale Dojo, and I was in charge of a 3-month intake at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just taught him like the basics, like lockups and rolls and all that. But then Tony Kazina, Tony's son, came back in September, and then he gave him like more in detail,
Yes.
more experience.
Yeah, that's really cool. So
Mm.
as we go on and Mike Ice is loose on the world of pro wrestling and doing all that, I'm sure he was like New Zealand wrestling champion 100 times over and and dominating the scene. How do you meet Fale for the first time? Was he at a show and he approached you? Did you already know who he was and you made contact? How did that come about?
So we had like trainings like every Wednesday night at IPW, and because he didn't have a dojo at the time, he would come to IPW and watch the trainings. And now that years have gone by, he was scouting. He was scouting for his future.
Sure.
I thought he was just watching just for the hell of it, but
Yeah.
he was scouting, and I kind of impressed him somewhere.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Nice.
he obviously had the plans of doing the dojo or was putting those plans in motion years before it ever became a thing. So was already thinking about his first class and stuff like that.
The dojo has been years in making,
Yeah.
and whole Tamashii has been like, I'd say close to 10 years.
Wow.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Well, yeah, New Japan doesn't do anything quickly, do they? They plan their moves way far in advance.
Yeah, like 6 months
So that
at
makes
least.
total sense.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
after you meet him, what's the timeline then? Because you said you did go and train with Ring of Honor. Had you already done that before you meet Fale for the first time, or you just sort of like, oh yeah, cool interactions, and then continued on with what you were doing?
Yeah, so 2014 I met Fale. 2015 I was still like wrestling in New Zealand, doing my thing. 2016 is when he took me into his office, and he was like, I want you to be one of our first students for the Fale Dojo.
Sure.
But the thing was, the next day I was flying out to America.
Wow.
So I was like, fuck, I'm sorry, I'm flying out to America tomorrow for 3 months. And he was like, he was gutted, but I said I was going to come back and train with him and all that. But yeah, so USA happened after I met Fale.
Yeah, exactly. So were you slated to be the first student of the Fale Dojo?
Yeah.
Exactly.
But so I think I ended up being the third because 2017, that's when he started doing the 3-month intakes. But when he did his first intake, I was training in America to prepare for the WWE tryout.
Yeah.
And his first intake already started. So yeah, I'm like the third.
Yeah, wow.
Third.
And how did the contact with training with the Ring of Honor and to get ready for the tryout with WWE come about? Was that something like you knew this opportunity was coming from WWE? Somebody had reached out, and then you reached out to them to prep, or was that something that they engineered for you?
So when I went in 2016, I did a Ring of Honor training seminar, and I had feedback from like Christopher Daniels, Adam Cole, Jay Lethal, all those top guys. And then at the end of it, I asked Cheeseburger, "Oh, do you guys have like a training school or anything?" And oh yeah, we train like 5 nights a week. And I kind of took that, and then the next year, that's when I decided, all right, I'll train with these guys for 3 months.
Yeah.
And that will help me with my WWE trial. But yeah, WWE, they have like a online application thing.
Okay.
So then I sent my details and everything, and then I managed to get the email from one of the I think Kenyon Kemen or Seaman is his name.
Yeah.
I got his email, and then I told him, hey, I'm going to be in Orlando from this time to this time. Is there any chance you have a tryout? And I just sent him all my matches, my bio, everything. He said I had a great look, and that's how it took off.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Whereabouts is the Ring of Honor school, and where were you staying? What were you doing?
It was in Bristol, Pennsylvania, but now I believe it's in Maryland, I think. Oh, it was in Maryland, because I don't think they have a training school anymore.
Yeah, right.
because of aid.
No, yeah, it's all AEW now, isn't it?
Yeah, okay then. Right. All right. So obviously then that is what it is. Did you enjoy your time in America? Because staying there for, I mean, you've obviously stayed in Japan for a period of time training and then also done the same in America. How did you find America? Because it is for some people and seems to not be for others when I hear about, Australians and New Zealand guys going over there and training there.
Yeah. No, I loved America. Like, I honestly want to live there one day. Like, maybe like close to the end of my career. But yeah, no, I loved it. Like, it was kind of scary at first because like when I first went in 2016, I was going to be landing in Orlando, but the week before they had a fucking shooting at a gay club or something like that.
Oh man,
I was pissed scared. I was so fucking scared, and I kind of didn't want to go.
Yeah.
But nah, I absolutely love America.
Yeah, exactly. That's stressful.
But it's not. Right now, I don't want to live there, but I don't mind going there for like a couple weeks.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And feeling that
You know what? I don't want to live there anymore either, so it's okay.
Curtis lives in the UK. He completely left. Exactly. And you were just back there. It didn't reignite the fire for the red, white, and blue.
No.
Once
I saw my friends and got all the food I wanted to get, I was done. I was like, I can go home now.
I can testify. He was like messaging me like, I miss my wife and dogs. I want to go home. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah. All right then. Well, things are what they are. We do Ring of Honor. We do the tryout. Like you said, you got told no, or we don't have anything for you right now. You've come all this way. You're probably feeling defeated. But in the back of your mind, you do know that Fale had made you an offer. So that must have been pretty exciting to go like, you know what? I'm gonna go this way and I'm gonna throw myself into it.
Yeah, it wasn't so much me thinking about Fale-san's offer. It was more so the tryout that was just announced for New Japan. Because no, I was talking to Aaron. Aaron was like, "Hey, bro, don't be so down about being told no. There's always another opportunity. There's a New Japan New Zealand tryout." So I did the tryout. Yeah, it was intense. It wasn't too. It was like 300 squats, a 3-minute bridge, and all these other exercises. But Fale-san always has his eye on me, so I knew I was going to do well.
Yeah.
Can we stop for a second and just realize the fact that he just said 300 squats and a 3-minute bridge isn't that intense?
I looked at Curtis's face,
that.
and Curtis looked exhausted thinking about it. Like,
oh, I must have looked like a slapped ass. I was like, what the fuck?
That's so nonchalantly. Oh, it was only this. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I'll
give you 3 squats and a 3-second bridge. How about?
Yeah. It's funny when I talk to friends about New Japan and like how we do like 1,000 squats sometimes, they just fucking lose their minds, and I'm like, it's just another day. Another day for us.
I don't think I've done 1,000 squats in my life.
I was about to ask you how many squats you think you've done in your life, Michael, because I would have to think it's up there.
Yeah, I maybe like 50,000. Maybe more.
No, it's more than that. Come on. You did 50,000 squats in one episode on that fucking show.
Yeah, I think the most we've ever had to do was in that Lions Roar.
Yeah.
And we kept on doing the squats to that song.
Yeah.
Yeah, so close to 2,000. That's possibly the most I've done.
In one sitting.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
Jesus.
In one sitting.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Bro.
Oh, Lord.
I got back into the gym this week, which probably led to me getting injured, like I was telling you guys about off mic. But I did like 10, and it was time to go home. And my home is only 4 floors above the gym. I was like,
oh yeah,
it's time to go. It's a wrap on me. But
elevator
yeah,
time.
Yeah, exactly. So the conditioning and stuff, you weren't stressed about it. It sounds like you've been all over your physical conditioning for a while. Is it after that trial you get another offer, or does Fale pull you aside? Is he there? How's the mechanics of that?
Yeah,
room?
so he was there So Jado-san, Gato-san was there, Fale-san was there. Jado and Gato told me to go train with Fale. And then I asked him about how much, because I would have to pay for my intake.
Yes.
And I asked him how the intake was going to cost, and he said like it was like five grand at the time. And I was like, oh fuck, I can't afford that. So I was like, is there any general classes you guys do? Yeah. And he said, yep. So I just did general classes maybe for a good 5-6 months. And then I did the first intake in 2018 alongside Andrew Villalobos and these 2 other Australians.
When you talk about, you know, the money to be part of the class, that's obviously like the reality of something like when you're putting on something like the Fale Dojo, right? Because it's room and board and food and all those things, because you're about to like live under that roof 24 hours a day, right? Like they can't just go, come in and train and we'll keep you alive. Like there's a trade-off there for sure.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like, basically, it was like I saved up the money and then I started training. But basically, like, I kind of had to like pay my way in like squats, basically, because like my first day we did like 1,000 squats, 200 lion push-ups, and it was like my 23rd birthday as well. So I was going in there thinking it's going to be like an easy, nice session, but no, like 1,000 squats, 200 push-ups, and like 5K run. And
Is he doing that to like a drill sergeant would do in the army, like to weed out the weak? Like are there people that show up on that first day and he makes them do 1,000 squats and he makes them, you know, run a 5K and things like that, and then there's just people that don't show up on day 2? Is that why he's going so hard to the paint right away?
That's what we do at the NZ Dojo, Fale Dojo. We always, the first week of an intake, we always put them through hell to see if they can handle it. So usually for like the first month, it's a straight like just conditioning only. Second month is conditioning. Third month is pro wrestling. But usually we had a guy run away overnight because he couldn't handle it the first day. Yeah,
just so packed his shit and got out.
Yeah, like he left at like 2 a.m., left his key on his bed, and then he went back to America.
Was it fucking me? Like, that'd be my move. I'm out of here.
The Night's Watch.
Yeah,
he's out.
So in Japan, and yeah, we kind of do the same things as they do in Japan.
Yeah.
Then,
How long were you at the Fale Dojo before you went to the actual New Japan Dojo?
So I started doing general classes in September 2017, and then first intake June 2018, and then I went to Japan in October 2018. So around about close to a year.
Yeah.
I was at Fale Dojo.
Wow.
And then I went to Japan for 3 months, and then when I was in Japan, that changed my fucking life.
Yeah.
Hardest thing I do.
Wow. So even after a year at Fale Dojo, when you went to the New Japan Dojo, it was still like, holy fuck.
Yeah. I wanted to quit pro wrestling in the first week. That's how bad it was.
You're the one. You're the one leaving your key and sneaking out in the middle of the night.
Yeah. I was even like, I was on my phone looking for Ubers to get to the airport. That's how bad it got.
Really?
Oh
but
my God.
I just thought about guys like Okada-san, Tanahashi-san. They went through the same thing that I did. So if they're at that level, why can't I get to that level too? So that's kind of how I kept on pushing.
Yeah. It's like, if I just go through the motions, this is a proven system. It's 100% proven to not only make stars, but to make you a part of a company that's very loyal to their people. You know, like when you look at their roster and things like that, like when you've been through that system, you are New Japan, and they look after their people the same way their people look after them. So was that what it was? You're having all these thoughts and you're like, if I can prove myself and I can get through this, I can be this.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I at the back of my mind, I knew I was only going to be there for 3 months. And I was like, fuck it. Let's just do this. and then you can rest back home in New Zealand.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the wrestling and the training that was the hard part. It was the etiquette. It was learning Japanese culture, like doing all the senpai's laundry. That's what I found the hardest because I was never really used to that. I was never exposed to that before.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Because Fale-san always told me, and he tells everyone this: wrestling in this business, it's 10% is wrestling. It's the 90% that matters the most. What you do outside of the ring is what matters the most.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. And I suppose like learning that kind of like humility and subservience, you know, in that where you are just the lowest rung on that totem pole would be a pretty kind of wild culture shock for any of us in Western society, because we are like, you know, we are given a lot, and it can sometimes be hard to sort of be grateful, I guess, in Western society because we have so much. And I'm not saying we're not grateful for the things we have, but there's like a level that's different. You know what I mean? And then when you were like dropped down like all the way, I assume after a year in the Fale Dojo, you're essentially top dog, you know, or like close to it. I know you're one of, you know, the main kind of guys that does the training, and you've been there a long time. So you would feel like, I am a young lion. I know what I've been doing. I've been doing this a year. I've been working really hard. And then you go and it's just like to the bottom. That would have maybe been one of the hardest things, right?
Yeah, because it was so different. Fale-san didn't teach us all the like counting in Japanese and Japanese phrases, which I understand he wants us to learn it ourselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was really really hard for me. But like I got through it because I was there with Andrew as well.
Yeah. Okay.
And we were working with guys like Shota, Umura, Suji, Narita. Fucking outstanding class, and we were with them.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that 3 months, and I took what I learned during that 3 month in Japan, and then I brought it back to New Zealand, and that's when I started teaching everyone all the Japanese etiquette and everything.
Wow. Okay. So it was from you guys going to Japan that led to like the Japanese counting stuff, like you see in the Lions Roar documentary, and the yelling the phrases and doing all that. You brought that back with you and started implementing that in the Fale Dojo.
Yeah, I think that's what Fale-san wanted. I think he didn't want to do it. I think he sent me and Andrew to Japan to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, okay.
But if I could go back in time, I didn't think I was ready to go to Japan for 3 months. I think I should have done more in New Zealand first.
Okay.
But that Fale-san just wanted to get the ball rolling, get New Zealand scene rolling to eventually get to Tamashii.
Yeah. It's really interesting that you've really adopted that New Japan mindset. Like the whole thing is building, right? And you're like, I need longer, and there's more to learn and stuff. Because a lot of people now, and I interview a lot of independent wrestlers and stuff, people are stars on the internet and wrestling and GCW and things like that, and they've been wrestling for like 9 months because they like, you know, do some courses and stuff, and they hit some gifts, and people really like it, and people carry them through stuff, and they're just pro wrestlers out there. But you're like living this very humble lifestyle. You're like, I'm part of this huge thing where I'm kept in my station. It's like black trunks, it's black boots. I'm not expressing myself. I'm learning this craft, you know, and that must be hard. Like you're watching your friends, you know what I mean, on WWE in New Japan and things like that, and you're like, I am just here forever. But you know that there's a goal in mind, and you're working to become the best possible version of yourself and the best wrestler you can. I think there's something really to be said about the kind of dedication and work ethic that fucking takes, because I'm not sure I can even imagine what that takes, you know what I mean? And when you talk about sitting there looking at your fucking phone like, I'm getting an Uber and I'm getting the hell out of here, I'm sure those thoughts have probably come through your head many times, you know, over the years. What keeps you going, like, in those moments, you know?
Fuck, I even felt like quitting last year, to be honest,
Yeah.
because
Really?
but I was fucking depressed. I honestly was pretty suicidal at one point. Never mind that.
Oh, God.
Yeah, being done, because like as you progress through a young lion, it doesn't get easier, it gets harder, because you've got to be in charge of all the new guys who come through.
Yeah, more responsibility. Yeah.
Unlike Japan, it's pretty much every man for himself.
Yeah.
Your dog eat dog mentality.
Yeah.
But with New Zealand, we get 12, 15 guys every intake. We 3 intakes a year.
Sure.
So we've got 15 guys, all the Japanese etiquette. And then once they leave, a new 15 guys come in. We've got to teach them the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating, because Fale-san, he kept on grilling me for fucking up all the time. And I was like, fuck, I just can't take this anymore.
Yeah.
So I honestly felt like just giving up.
Yeah.
But in that time, I realized why I started it in the first place. And then just think about why I started.
It's so very inspiring to see, like, you know, you say how many times you've wanted to quit, how many times you've wanted to walk away, you know, and like that's one of the things specifically that I wanted to interview you about, because when, you know, we first got introduced to you via the Young Lions Cup. And like when you were there, like, I mean, you say in the documentary, like, you didn't make the best impression.
No.
And we've seen since then, you've turned yourself into, you know, you're doing bodybuilding now, you're you know, being the best thing that you can be. And like me myself, like I wouldn't have ever even gotten to the point of making the Young Lions Cup, let alone having a bad showing and going home and doing something about it like you did. Like I would have quit, but I would have quit long before then. So like seeing the fact that you've taken that and turned it into like fuel for your fire is fantastic, man.
It's so
like,
inspiring, Michael.
It's such a cool story.
And I'm so glad they did that documentary, that people got to see that story, because as you told that, like, there was a lot of people, and I heard people talk about it on the internet and things like that, that related with that. You know what I mean? Like your story is like a character, and your journey, when it's all said and done, and with your work ethic and as everything goes through, like, it's all going to be worth it, man. And it's going to be one of the most inspiring stories in New Japan history. I believe you will 100% get there, and I think everybody will know, because, I mean, are you currently the longest running young lion, like, in New Japan?
I'd say so, but I'm not a young lion anymore.
Okay,
I've
you're
never
through
been.
now.
No.
So we haven't seen Tamashii. It may have been before that, so apologies if we're not on top of it. So you have graduated the class. Now, I mean, I'm sure you graduated 100 times over in this, but you're not officially, as far as like the New Japan sort of rankings or whatever go, a young lion now. You're Michael Richards, the dude.
Yeah. I want to call myself the Relentless Kiwi.
Yeah.
I've officially graduated at the moment. Just working to find who I am more.
Yeah.
So now I want to go out, travel overseas, and wrestle wherever I can.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome to finally get to that point and be through it.
I think I am one of the longest serving young lions.
Yeah.
Which I don't mind. Everyone's got their own story. Like, for so long in my career, I've always compared my journey to other people. Like Jay, for example. Jay White is like the guy who I'm trying to chase. Yeah. Because he kind of came through the same background as me. And so he's the one guy who I'm trying to chase.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you can't. Everybody has their own journey to run, you know, and I think that your story will be what it is, and like you say, all of the things you've been through, like, all of that makes you a better pro wrestler. None of it was wasted time. You know what I mean? Like, it's all it's all the craft and everything. So, let's rewind to the cup, because was that when you were training in the dojo at the time, or did you come there specifically from New Zealand to do that show?
So the Young Lion Cup happened. It was when Tony Kazina was in America, so I was essentially the coach at the time for 3 months from June to August. So I was too busy teaching them. I wasn't working on myself as much.
Yes.
So bad timing, but I should have been in there with the guys doing the training and everything, because I was still a young lion at the time. But yeah, so it was what it was. Yeah. So after that intake finished, it was a week off, and then we went to Japan.
Yeah, exactly right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly.
That's intense.
That's nuts. But yeah, that's interesting to say, because when you talk about, your physical conditioning, obviously somebody that's been very physical, and then maybe not being as sort of happy with how it was come the cup, it was directly related to your responsibilities and trying to learn how to balance, teaching students and do things at the same time.
Yeah, like I was lifting weights, but my diet was trash. That's why I was like 115 kgs when I was over there. I was doing the reps in the gym, but I wasn't doing the reps in the ring like what I should have been doing.
Yeah.
Because I think I found out I was going to be going to Japan in July, but I didn't know that I was going to be in the Young Lion Cup. Yeah. So I found out on Twitter, just the same as everybody else in the world, that I was going to be in the Young Lion Cup.
Jesus
Christ. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I'm going to be in Young.
Yeah. You got to stay ready in this business, eh? There's no getting ready. It's all staying ready.
That was when 2019.
2019, yeah.
Yeah, and so you're in there with dudes like Shota, Carl Fredericks, like dudes who look like gods.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh man, I've been eating like shit.
Yeah.
Oh mate,
that's gotta play hell on your psyche.
There's a certain picture that's floating around on I think I've got it saved somewhere. You've got like Carl Fredericks, Alex Coughlin, Clark Connors, and then you've got this pasty white guy in the ring.
Oh, bro.
It looks horrible, but it's all part of me.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you said on the documentary you talked about, how you received like negative feedback and things like that, and again, another opportunity where you could have gone, yo, this is too much. Like I can't balance these responsibilities. These dudes hate me. This is a fucking waste of time.
Yeah.
I need to go live a life, But again, your dedication, you're like, no, I'm going to show everybody that I can be as good, if not better than everybody else. And that's amazing, man.
Like, as much as the Young Lion Cup sucked for me, like, there wasn't a point after it that I wanted to quit, because I wanted to fucking get back there and prove them wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to fucking, so I turned my life around. I got a trainer, Tangi, he was in the documentary. Yeah, I did a bit of bodybuilding, and now I'm just fucking hungrier than ever to get back there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Show everybody what's up.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so cool, man. So then I guess we're talking 2019 in the timeline. It's very soon after that, January. We're talking about COVID comes and ruins everybody's fucking time, and everything locks down, and the events of the documentary play out, and that in itself is quite a mental journey. I mean, your whole journey's so mental, so much mental toughness required, because now you're talking about what feels like the end of the world. It doesn't. It maybe is easy to kind of look over that time like, oh, no big deal, and everything worked out okay. It was a big deal. It was a very big deal, and it was very scary, And you're like running training sessions, and you don't know if you're allowed to be there, and there's police knocking on the door and all that. How's that from your point of view? Like, I mean, you got to be thinking about leaving at that point as well.
2020 was supposed to be fucking massive. Like,
Yeah.
I wrestled a indie show, and I was supposed to wrestle all around the world. I was actually supposed to go back to Japan in 2020.
Yeah.
Fucking COVID.
Yeah.
So then everything had to be put on hold for 2 years.
Yeah.
So Tamashii was actually supposed to happen in 2020.
Wow. Because like at the time leading up to that, like New Japan were doing like pretty regular tours of Australia. I know I went to them. You know what I mean? They were doing like annual tours. It was the hottest it had ever been. You know, and they were picking up that steam. So that makes completely logical sense in the timeline, because it was like they were almost beginning to, you know, pick up that momentum and go, cool. And now we can see this audience is here and we're going to put something regular in place.
Yeah. So we did. So during COVID, we had to have a couple of lockdowns.
Yes.
So like we couldn't leave the house for like 3 months. We only could leave to do supermarket shopping and all that. But then like COVID kind of died for a bit.
Yeah.
And we went like 6-7 months without any COVID cases. And as soon as we got one new COVID case, the country was in lockdown for another 6 months.
Yeah, because
that was during filming, and that fucked everything up.
Yeah, wow. It like from Australia, like we were hearing about kind of New Zealand, and it was like they didn't fuck about. They locked it down the entire place. Now everybody's like living like normal kind of thing, but they weren't playing any games with it at all. For you, like once it comes back around, was that the point in the documentary where it was like, everybody get your shit and get to the dojo now if you're going to train, otherwise live in the house, you know, when the house divides kind of thing? Was that at the point?
Yeah. So they gave us two options. They said you can either train at the house or train at the dojo. Initially I went to the house, but then a week being at the house, I felt that it wasn't right for me to be there. So then I went to the dojo at like 1 a.m., hoping no cops would see me going from
sneaking in. Yeah.
I moved back to the dojo and trained with Fale-san and Tony-san during that doco.
Yeah. How far away is the house from the dojo?
Only like a 10-minute drive.
Okay, yeah.
So it's not really, but the house, you're living with like 15 guys, and yeah, it just got a bit too much for me when I was at training at the house. Yeah. Because there's a ring at the house as well.
Yeah.
So we could do heaps of matches over there and everything.
It would be heavy, and I mean I'm sure it is heavy. Do you, like, when there's intakes and stuff, do you still live in the house, or do you have your own place and you can kind of come and go from it now?
Nah, so I was living at the dojo from February 20 up until August this year, and that's when Fale-san gave me the green light to fucking move out because I've earned it. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, right.
Nice.
Dude, that would be dealing with fucking that many housemates for that long, dude. Like, I'd be like, File, like, you need to move me out of here. I'm about to murder everybody up in this entire place.
Like, there's one shower. You have to wait so very long to have a shower. It's pretty rough.
No.
Dude, I mentioned briefly before, like, I used to be in a band, and when we would tour, like, I swear, we had this great idea this one time. We're like, you know what? Let's save on hotels and stuff. Let's hire a Winnebago, and we'll just, like, start in Queensland, and we'll just, like, drive, right? And all live in this thing. 6 guys together, it'll be great. In the back of a fucking camper van, like, sleeping on top of each other. Me and the merch guy, we got the roughest. Everybody was sleeping in twos, but we got the dining table used to fold into a bed, and in the middle of the night, like, a piece would fall out, and it would just collapse. I remember pulling into, like, Melbourne, and, like, I just got out of the camper van. I just grabbed my backpack and just started walking away. Like, and the guy's like, where are you going? And I'm like, this is 9 a.m. I'm like, when's the show? And they go, 10 tonight. And I'm like, cool, I'll see you then. And they're like, where are you going? And I'm like, away from you. And I just like went to the city and just like went to a cinema on my own in silence and like ate food just because I needed to be away from other humans. Like, and these are some of my favorite people in the world, but I'm like, I can't even look at you guys. And then after the tour was done, we didn't rehearse or be a band for like over 3 months. We didn't even speak to each other. Not because we fought or anything like that. It's just like, I just can't look at you anymore, dude. I just can't fucking be in your presence. So I imagine for you, and especially in a training situation where it's all dudes and fucking sweat and smelly and you're telling people what to do and people don't want to do it. You must be like, I'm gonna lose it here.
Like, I think I've nearly had like 3 fights or a couple of fights with some of the guys during training.
Yeah,
that's me. But
I'm just gonna
I can't do anything about it.
I'm just gonna shoot on this dude. Oh my God. Well, I'm glad you're free of that. And like you say, you've earned it at this point and you can, be trusted to come and go and still run classes and do all the things, but also earn the right to like live a human life, which is pretty amazing.
Sleep in your own bed, play your own video games, take your shower whenever you want it. You must have felt like the teenager who just got the keys to the car from dad and you're like, I'm going out.
Felt so great.
Farley tosses you the keys to the Hummer.
Oh yeah.
Now I'm just trying to save up to find my own place because like I love being with my parents and all, but I'm just too big and I just take up too much space. Like all the food in the house I'm bringing, it's just not enough space.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Curtis, you missed this because you had to run away from the table, but Michael was telling us he also has a pug. I knew you'd want to know that information.
I've got a.
I knew we were bros.
Got a little 5-year-old black pug.
Oh, is it little boy, little girl?
Little girl.
Oh, what's her name?
Lulu.
That's cute.
That's the best. That's the fucking best.
Yeah. Curtis has two.
That's the you had a picture of Lulu on your Facebook, didn't you? That's where I saw it. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Derailing it
I
again with
remember
Dogcast, but yeah, I think we're all dog people, so we have to bring it back. It must be nice to be at home, like having a pet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Versus like, that's not a possibility when you live in a dojo.
Having 15 nerds as a pet. Yeah.
I mean, we do have a cat, just a stray cat who came to the Mangere house, the dojo house. The dojo cat.
That's rad.
We don't know where it came from. We just called Dojo Cat, and yeah,
that's its name, Dojo Cat. It just lives there.
Dojo Cat.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us a little bit about Tamashii. So it hasn't aired on New Japan World, but from what I could see on social media and photos and stuff, it looks like the events, both the New Zealand event and the Sydney event, look like they went off. They looked absolutely amazing. How was it for you to finally get that opportunity, an opportunity that you had to wait 2 years for, essentially?
Fuck, it was possibly the weekend I've had in fucking Christchurch was awesome. I think we did like 650 people.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We wanted more numbers, obviously, but just wrestling again after two years was phenomenal. Yeah. It was pretty gutting not being able to face Jeff Cobb.
Yes.
But
it's a shame.
Can't help that. You can't help that, and I wish him all the best.
Yeah.
So I ended up facing one of our dojo guys, Richard Mulu.
Oh, yep.
So it was kind of cool because I was his debut match for New Japan. I kind of led that match.
Yeah.
So it's kind of say that I was his first match.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Sydney, we wrestled at Liberty Hall, and I found out that it's Max Watts, which PWA used to do most of their shows.
Yes.
And it was kind of cool to wrestle there.
Yeah.
It was like apparently it was like where like rock bands do like their shows and all that. It's like a music venue.
Yeah, it is.
But Sydney knocked it out of the park. Both shows were fucking amazing.
Oh, dude. Do you think it speaks a little bit to how your mindset's changed over these years? That like, I think a lot of people would be like, oh, Cobb's out. That's my opportunity. I'm kind of down on the entire thing. It's like, oh man, that was kind of really thing. But to me, I'm hearing like, oh, I was able to give an opportunity and help someone else. You know what I mean? You were able to be that for Richard Mulu, what Cobb was kind of going to be for you, you know, like that, that changed. And it sounds like you found satisfaction in that. And I think that's really cool, you know, because a lot of people could go, well, this is another huge hurdle, you know, in my journey, and I'm bummed on it, you know?
Yeah. It kind of, because like me and Richard, we did like quite a few training matches on the lead up to Tamashii.
Yes.
So it kind of worked out perfectly that we just do the same thing, but in front of a crowd. And he was a little bit nervous, but he did well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So over the shows, what were your matches between the different shows?
What were my matches on the shows?
Yeah, on the Tamashii shows.
Rich in Christchurch, and Sydney, it was me and Andrew versus Ricky South and Caveman Ugg.
Ah, yes, exactly. Two huge staples in PWA.
Yeah. Ricky is amazing. Ugg, I kind of, because he came to the dojo in 2019.
Okay.
And I was training him. So I knew what to expect. Like, his chops are fucking brutal. Yeah. I still got a sore from his chop, but...
That's it. It's crazy now that like there's so many of these people, you know, staples in the wrestling scene where you're like, yeah, I trained them when they were in the New Zealand dojo. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I have a feeling now that Tamashii has started, we're going to get more prominent guys from Australia and New Zealand come to the dojo. Yeah. Guys like Grayson Waller, he was supposed to come to the dojo in 2019, but he had to do Survivor and everything.
Yes.
So many guys, like the Philipps, they're outstanding, incredible. So I'm just wanting more guys, more wrestlers to come through the dojo now. Yeah. Because
what's your day like for when you wake up and you're doing training for these people that are on the intakes? What's your day like when you get there now? Because you're not up at the crack of dawn anymore. You get to set your own schedule a little bit.
Yep. So me living at home, I still have to be at the dojo 5 days a week. So I wake up at 8 a.m. 7:30 a.m. I go to the dojo, and I pretty much just overlook all the lions doing their cleaning and everything. And if their cleaning isn't on point, that's when the punishment begins.
Boston
so that's when we give 1,000 that shit. So I'm the one giving them the punishment.
Ah, refreshing.
But so
you're the drill sergeant now.
Yeah, I'm at the dojo every day, and I'm the one who puts them through the conditioning. Yeah. And Tony puts them through the wrestling and everything. So I'm there from like 8 a.m. to 12 in the afternoon.
Yeah. What are the plans going forward? Because I hear Tamashii that they want to make that more regular. And what's your focus? What keeps you going now, and where's Michael Richards heading?
So right now my focus is just because I think I'm going to be doing another bodybuilding show in May. Wow. So right now I'm working with the coach, get bigger, and then he's going to work on me getting more shredded and all that jazz. So another show's on the road.
More shredded. Jeez, dude.
More shredded.
Michael's like, it's not hard enough training for so many years and doing 1 million squats. What I've got to really do is cut weight and go through a bodybuilding process on top of that as well.
Every time you post pictures on Twitter, you're just looking like absolutely like Bruce Lee. Like it's nuts. And you're talking about getting more shredded. That's nuts, man. How does that affect your conditioning as far as like the bulking and things like that you're doing? Like, are you finding a middle ground there?
So right now I'm currently bulking, so I'm still on the meal plan, but I'm allowed to cheat meal like once a week and all that. But when it comes to wrestling, I don't want to get too shredded, too lean, because when you're too lean, you don't have that much body fat, and that's what absorbs like all the bumps and everything like that. So I do want to find that common ground. But yeah, right now I'm just focused on the bodybuilding show, and there may be another Tamashii tour coming up early next year. I don't know where.
Oh,
but
you heard it here first.
yeah, I think there's quite a bit of tours planned for next year.
That's awesome. And have you had talks about returning to Japan at any point?
Not yet. But Fale-san, because I think I'm wanting to go to New York for New Year's. But Fale-san said keep that free because they may need you for Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, wow.
That'd be so cool.
Rumbles on the pre-show, and that they might need me.
Yeah.
So I'm just keeping my schedule free.
Yeah, absolutely. Just stay ready. Because you never know, right? And like you said, New Japan's way of announcing things, you find out with everybody else on Twitter that you're in the Young Lion Cup. Next thing you know, you're in the Rambo, or you're in an opening match or whatever, and you didn't even know it was coming.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So
right now I'm just trying to stay ready, so I don't have to get ready. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's do a little bit of a lightning round. I got a couple of questions about your future here. Okay. One person in New Japan that you want to wrestle. Let's go. Who is it?
Do what?
All right, good one. I dig that.
Yeah.
What faction appeals to Michael Richards? Are you gonna follow in Fale's footsteps and join the Bullet Club, or are you looking at somebody else?
Yeah, I think Bullet Club. Yeah, Bullet Club for me.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Dig it. Okay, so the Noge Dojo, those guys are very disciplined. They are very straightforward. The LA Dojo has kind of like a jock vibe. What's the New Zealand Dojo?
We're pretty different. Like you got Andrew, who's a bit of a clown. Jake, who's kind of like really intense. I'm kind of like in between. So we're quite a mixture of personalities here. But I want to bring a better look than the LA Dojo guys, and they're going to be tough to beat because Alex Coughlin, he's a fucking machine at the moment.
Yeah, he is.
And I mean, those like four kind of pillars of the LA Dojo, they're all posting photos looking like models and stuff, like together, like all dressed to the nines and stuff like that. So you guys are looking to try and outshow them a little bit when that opportunity arises.
Well, we want to do the best that we can. And yeah, when the time comes that we can compete against one another, we'll be good. But right now, we haven't really gone out as much. As a group, but when we do, we all know who we are and what we are.
Absolutely. I mean, you guys have had the opportunity to marinate in it for so long. You know, like the world being what it was, you guys probably would have been seen a lot sooner. And you talk about staying ready, you know, so you don't need to get ready. That's where you guys are at now, right? So it's like unleash us on the world and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew, he had the opportunity to face Kenta. So he kind of showed what it was all about.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So here's another one. We haven't had a chance to see Michael Richards, the finished product here, the graduated Young Lion, now no longer black trunks, now blue trunks, right? We haven't had a chance to see that Michael Richards. What would you say your style is? Brawling? Are you technical? Are you flying around? How would you describe yourself to someone who hasn't seen you wrestle yet?
I'm more of a brawler. Like you'll never see me on the top rope. You'll never see me get too technical. I just want to beat people up and throw people around.
Beat wholesale ass. Yes.
Like Randy Orton is like my guy.
Okay.
So I'm kind of trying to go towards his route. But I don't want to be like an exact copy.
Yeah.
So I'm just taking things from Randy Orton, maybe something from Triple H, something from Jay White, and just combine into one.
Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
Dig it.
What's your finish at the moment?
So it's called For the Kill. It's a swinging fisherman neckbreaker.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
I love it.
You mentioned Jay White being sort of on your hit list or somebody you want to wrestle. Do you know Jay? Did you get opportunity to wrestle with him coming up? We didn't really have a chance to talk about him as much.
So when I first met Fale, I told him about my goals, about wanting to go overseas and everything. And he told me to reach out to a guy called Jay White. And this was when he was still in the dojo as a young boy.
Yeah.
So we used to I used to talk him about for advice and everything, and we just started talking. He came over in 2015. While he was still a young lion, I think he had the chance to wrestle. And then he remembered me, and he said, if there's anything you ever need, just reach out to me, and I'll look after you. So I still message him sometimes to this day, and he gives me feedback on like diet and everything like that.
Yeah.
I've never wrestled him, but he's the one guy who I want to wrestle, and because he's like top guy in New Zealand, so I want to get to that level.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, arguably the top guy in New Japan as well at the moment, right? Yeah, exactly.
Arguably the most shredded guy. So you really want to get there too.
Maybe a little bit bigger. But
Yeah.
we'll see.
Heard that here. Michael Richards calling Jay White small compared to him. We'll start this beef now. We'll get it going.
Yeah, we'll get it going for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you got any more lightning questions there for him, Curtis?
I think that's covered. My next one was going to be like talk about your finisher, but yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think we're good to go, man. I'm out of lightning round questions.
No, that's totally fine. I wasn't prepared for the lightning round, so I enjoyed it as far as it goes. Oh well, man, I guess as we start to wrap up here, what can we tell the fans that are getting ready for Tamashii to appear on New Japan World and excited to watch it? Like, what can they expect from the shows?
You can expect a lot more new faces, a very different style of wrestling. But it's going to be something different that no one's ever seen before, and just the start of something new, like High School Musical. But yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be great, and this is the beginning of something huge.
Yeah.
And 2023 is just going to be a massive year for all.
That's awesome. Well, I got to say, I didn't expect a High School Musical reference, but I'm glad we got there. I want to thank you so much for your time, dude. And I mean, we've said it in this show, but your work ethic is just so impressive. Like the amount of work you've had, and to now finally see you getting to this point where it's all starting to happen. You know, like that. It's just that patience, that New Japan patience, but we're going to get there eventually, and being along for that ride and seeing it play out, it's all going to be worthwhile, and it's all going to be the fucking sweeter when you pin Jay White's shoulders to the mat and become the new IWGP champion, Michael Richards.
New leader of Bullet Club.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. Tell the people where to find you on social media and all those things so they can follow in the journey.
So on Instagram, I'm MJ Richards NZ. And on Twitter, I am MR Richards NZ. That's what you can
awesome.
find.
That's what you do. Curtis, tell the people where to find you and us on social media.
Well, you can find me on social media, Instagram, and for as long as Twitter is still around, El Destructo83. You can find this show on Twitter and Instagram at Okada Shorts. For some reason that wasn't taken, it astounds me every time. I figured it would, somebody would have parked it years ago. You can find our beautiful benefactors, the Count Out Podcasting Network. You can find them at Count Out Pod on all those lovely social medias. We also have a Patreon if people would like to help donate a little bit of money to the Count Out Podcasting Network. If you find the naive stupidity of our giving away a free show business model to be oddly charming and would like to give us gifts of money, you can do that at patreon.com/countoutpod. That'll go to help a lot of cool podcasters do a lot of cool podcast things, and we appreciate it very much. So, Rafe, you want to tell people where they can find you on social media?
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, my dude. It is at Faces Feels Cast to check out my interview series, Faces and Feels, where I speak to independent wrestlers from all around the world. And besides that, we also have a link tree. What is it? Link.tree. I forget how it works.
tr.e.
Yeah, exactly. Okada Shorts, and same for Faces Feels Cast, where you can find links to all of our things, including at Riff Your Pod, our friend Owen, who made the banger theme for this show. So if you are a wrestler, I'm looking at you, Michael, or anybody else that that needs their own dope music, hit my boy up because he will take care of you. All right. I think with that, we have covered nearly everything we need to cover. So, Michael, one last time, I want to thank you so much for your time, and for everybody out there, rate and subscribe, listen or die, keep it right, keep it tight, and most importantly, keep it what?
Short. Alongside Andrew Villalobos and these two other Australians.
Yeah, okay then. So is it roulette over Michael's playing craps on the other side of the table. Are you gambling while we're trying to record? Now,
Chris laughing at his own joke.
Yeah,
okay.
I am laughing at my own joke. I can pull this back. So, can he pull it back?
Outtakes.
He's very tight.
Cut that.
He's very tight. Exactly.
All right.
So, yeah.
This has been a Count Out Podcast.
Hey guys, gals, and non-binary pals.
It's Amanda Bones
And I'm Ashley.
of How to Talk to Your Friend About Wrestling, the podcast on the Count Out Wrestling Podcast Network, a weekly show where we talk about all of our favorite things: babes, blood, and brutality.
We also talk about other fun things, like is Kenny Omega finally too tan? And how much blood is too much blood? Because that looks like way too much blood.
So join us on the adventure of teaching me, Amanda Bones, about wrestling.